One of my new favorite decks in the OP-05 season is none other than Enel. Enel is just a really fun deck because it uses one of my favorite colors for the One Piece card game, which is yellow. But it does have the added caveat of like inbuilt protection, because whenever your life hits 0, you add the top card of your deck to your life and then you discard one card. So essentially when you are at 1 life, you actually have 2. When you're at 2 life, you actually have 3, and so on and so forth. So it makes it so that your opponent has to kind of make sure you hit 0 on the turn that they're going to do a full-scale attack. But if you have protection and if you have a way to counter after that last big attack, then you're still at 1, which means you're still at 2 life in the following turn, after you use Enel's ability, of course. So this makes yellow Enel a very sticky and resilient deck, and now we have a new yellow base leader to kind of bring into the OP-05 metagame. And this particular deck that I'm going to talk about today is very familiar. If you guys know it, you know it. It's essentially using the Katakuri shell, using some of the new cards from OP-05 to make it even better. And we're going to go through the Enel deck today. Alright, shout out to OP TCG Sim. Batsu, you are the GOAT. So this is Enel. Opponent turn, once per turn, when your life hits 0, you may add the top card of your deck to your life, then discard 1 card from your hand. This is actually a really powerful effect because you are essentially getting 5 life. If your opponent ends their turn with you still at 1 life, the effect will proc the next turn on your next opponent's turn, because you will always have that Enel trigger because it's a once per turn thing. So as long as you have a card in your hand, you have 1 life and Enel's ability is not procced yet, you will always get another life back, which is really great. And combining with all of the annoying yellow trigger cards out there, this makes it a force to be reckoned with, right? So the shell of the deck is using the same category type shell. So I will not go through every single card in this deck. If you want to know more about the thought choices, you can watch my category deck build video. I'm going to go through specific cards in this build, which some will be more familiar than others, and also talk about the new cards that are currently in the deck. So starting with 4 copies of Pudding. This is your searcher because most of the cards that you're playing are part of the Big Mom Pirates, so searchers are necessary. Sparrow for the early kind of early game pressure to your opponent's life. At the same time, very good against Purple Luffy because you need a body on the field on turn 3, and if it gets KO'd, you get to search for some of your bigger threats, maybe a Katakuri, maybe even like a Blocker Sanji for the late game, and so on and so forth. We'll talk about the counters later, but I think Shirahoshi is a very necessary card in this deck. Just for the card filtering alone, this deck does struggle a little bit because you only play 1 searcher and you have 1 KO searcher essentially. So if you get lucky and trigger Shirahoshi from life, then you have a chance to kind of refill your hand, because some cards are better in the early game but are not as good in the late game. So you want to swap those cards out for something even better, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Then we'll talk about the top end choices later on, as well as the 2k counters. I'm just going to go through the main stuff first. So 4 cost Blocker Sanji has trigger. This card is really good in yellow no matter what, and it is searchable by Pudding because Pudding can search out a Sanji card. So this is absolutely necessary in the deck. And then Charlotte Brûlée, this is a version that I saw a Japanese player pulled. I think this is for maximum protection in case you get lucky from trigger and you want to protect that last life. Brûlée is great for doing that. So I'm trying this version out with Brûlée, and it's been working decently so far. Sometimes you get really lucky, and in the added bonus you get to tilt your opponent, so that's a plus point, right? Then we're gonna go through some of the newer cards out here. Mainly it's Gadatsu. Now Gadatsu is one of those cards that in the early game shines the brightest. If you know, you're fighting, let's say, against a blue-yellow queen, you probably won't even be attacking into the queen's life in the early game, because queen's main form of like blocker or card arranging, you got like your Perona, you got the 3-cost Doflamingo, or even the 4-cost Sanji, because those are the cards you normally find in Queen and are their early game. So Gadatsu, if Queen is at 4 life, drop it down, you can KO something. In the late game, Gadatsu is one of those cards that I will actually pitch to Shirahoshi because it ends up being just a 1k counter date card in your hand. There's not a lot of targets depending on the specific deck they're fighting. Against like Red Green Law, against Zoro, you have such a great time with this. Oh, I haven't said the effect. Yeah, KO one of your opponent's characters will cost equal or less than their life. So as the game progresses, your opponent will be at a lower life count. Gadatsu's effectiveness will diminish. So this is the card that I will kind of throw away either as a counter or pitch to Shirahoshi to look for better cards. And there are certain versions of the Enel deck that runs the 7-cost Big Mom, which is from the starter deck. Let me just pull it up right here. This one where your opponent choose one of the following effects to trash the top card of their life, or put one card from the top of the deck to the life area. You can kind of run a split. I have tried a version with like 2 Enel, 4 Big Moms. It's depending on the metagame. I feel like right now there are a lot of threats on board that you have to answer. Red Purple Law, for example, has a lot of 5,000 powered characters that you want to deal with immediately. Big Mom is a little bit too slow for that, but if the metagame diverges into a more grindier matchup, a lot of blue-black Sakazukis, a lot of opposing mirror matchups. This card is great in the mirror, by the way. Then yeah, you would have to kind of evaluate and put Charlotte Lillian back, but my main choice of the 7 cost is the new Enel card. This is just one of my new favorite cards from OP-05, 7 cost 7,000 with Rush, and if it were to be if it were to be removed from the field, that's a very important caveat. You may trash the top card of your life instead, and if Luffy is on the field, this effect may not be activated. That's just a law-wise thing, really, really good. But yeah, that means if someone tries to, put Enel into your life via Katakuri's effect, or bottom decks it with a red rock or combination of other cards, or even returning back to your hand, which you wouldn't want to do that, then you have the option to just remove your life or KO your life, trash your life, and keep it on the field. If you know you're going to pressure your opponent in that way, then maybe you have to see circumstantial how this card will behave. But even then, 7 cost 7,000 attacker, really, really powerful. Now, let's talk about the sort of the card that makes the deck work. It is a necessary 4-off in my opinion. It's the 9-cost Yamato from OP-04. So Yamato's ability is on play KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost that is equal to or less than the life of you and your opponent. Then if you have one or less life, you may add 1 card from top of your deck to your life area. Enel wants to be at 1 life at all times, but it's better when you're at 2 life. So when you are at your 9 dawn turn, when you have 10 dawns or your 9 dawn turn, you play down Yamato, even if you don't KO anything, because you'll probably be at 1 life, opponent probably be at 2 or 3 life, and there's nothing on the field that you can KO, doesn't matter. You just want the life back, so that at least you have a little bit more protection. And if you're lucky, you get to put some really annoying stuff like Brule or maybe the Capone Beige back to the top of their life. It's all about being resilient. In this deck, you want to survive for as long as possible and kind of drain out the resource of your opponent with all these big boss monsters in the deck. Now, 2k counters wise, fairly standard. You got your Strusen, you got your Charlotte Amande. These are necessary 2k counters because they are searchable. Their effects are as follows. You can pause it to read it if you want. I will not get into them. But we have Capone Gang Beige, which is you will get lucky with yellow sometimes. And sometimes your last card is a Capone Gang Beige in your life, and you can prevent one of your opponent's characters from attacking. This is what makes this 2k counter so good. This is the best 2k counter in the game, in my opinion, for yellow. And that's why it's a 4-off. And lastly, to round it out, we got some new cards in here. We have El Thor, which is essentially a radical beam for yellow, except that your opponent has to be 2 or less life. I made the mistake before that, I forgot that I always think of it as radical beam, where it's like 2 or less of your own life. And my opponent had like 3 life and tried to use it in 2k power only. So yeah, just kind of readjust your mindset a little bit if you're planning to play yellow. It's when your opponent is at 2 or less life, then you get a 1 cost plus 4k counter. Just straight up, really, really good. And one of my new favorite cards is this 200 million volt Amaru. It's main up to one of your leader or character gains plus 3000 power. Then if your life is 1 or less, res up to one of your opponent with a cost of 4 or less. This is great against the opposing mirror, because a lot of opposing yellow decks right now don't really play Brule as much, but they do play the 4-cost Sanji. So at the late game, when they want to protect that last life for Enel, they usually have 1 or 2 Sanjis out of the field. If you can rest them with this when you're trying to go for game against Enel, then this is such a great card to have for sure. I've just been really impressed with it, even though even in the early game, you just want to pump your characters up by 3k to get rid of something that's rested. Could be possible as well. I just really like this card. It's kind of like a pet card for me right now. And also the trigger ability to trash 2 cards from your hand and add up 1 card from the top of your deck to your life is great when you are at that 0 life. You happen to trigger this from the last life, you would gladly pitch 2 cards to stay alive for another turn. If it buys you another turn, then this card does everything that you want it to do. And that's the breakdown of the deck right here. You can take a look. We're going to jump into a game right now to kind of show a little bit of the Enel gameplay and just talk about my thought process. So hope you guys enjoy. Let's jump into the game right now. All right, we're gonna test out Enel. Oh, this is a difficult matchup because it's against Sakazuki, which we're not really that good at dealing. But we're gonna go first so we can have some extra pressure and hopefully drop our big bombs on curve. Meaning like either the 7-cost Rush Enel or Yamato. Right now, because we got the Searcher, I think I am gonna play down the Pudding here. And let's just take a Katakuri for some late game, late game threat. We'll see how this goes. Right, he's gonna use Sakazuki's ability to discard 1, draw 1, and that ends his turn. Another Katakuri, so that's pretty decent, I would say. So attacking with 5k, he does take it. We're gonna drop down a Parasparrow here, have some extra pressure on the board. He may be able to, attack -1 to this and then play it if he has another Rob Lucci, but right now he only has 1 Lucci, 1 card in his trash, so gonna be difficult for him to get to that, especially since he didn't counter early on. So he's gonna pitch with Sakazuki first. Now he has 2. I think he recognizes that he cannot get rid of these 2 things with Lucci because of the number of cards in his trash, but he'll probably looking for something even better. So now he -1, 2 more Parasparrow. I'm gonna take this. I'm not gonna use this trigger, even though it does get me an extra life and I can pitch some stuff, but he does Sensen Sekai anyway, right? So that's fine. We can play down a Sanji here. We can play down Brule, which I think I might want to be aggressive a little bit and attack in with 7k. Play down Brule instead, save the Sanji for the late game. So make him use his removal on stuff like Brule first and then play out something even more. So he does counter out of it. We'll play out Brule and we're going to end the turn. So he's 5 cards in his trash. He countered with a 1-legged soldier and Zeph. So we're in a good spot right now, right? He is at 6. He does play Zeph. Oh, if he turns it to hand, yeah, that's the kind of perk of playing stuff like Zeph in this deck because you can bounce back. Stuff like Brule, I should have kind of anticipated that. So right now, do I want to kind of counter out of this? I think I'll just take, because it's still kind of early in the game. I do draw a card that I really need, which is an Enel, which is very good against Sakazuki because it's just an immediate threat that is hard to get rid of. I'm gonna swing in for 5k first. Maybe it's gonna counter out of it. If it doesn't, it's fine. It'll drop down to 2 life. But I have a feeling it's about a 1k counter, unless the cards in his hand is like heavy, removal stuff. He had to drop a 2k, so essentially this attack will probably go through. And I can potentially give up a life to protect Enel if he uses, something like a combination of cards to get bottom deck the Enel or things to KO the Enel. He can choose to attack into it as well. I have counters in case he's planning to do that. I want to make Enel stick. Right, he pitches the Mihawk, which would be a really good card, but he doesn't have the Dawn for it yet. So it's gonna attack in, or maybe not. If he does attack, this will be 6. And that's a way to reduce it. He can probably just Sensen Sekai. So it's gonna attack it. I'm gonna just counter out of this one for 2k. Get it out of my hand. Just trying to protect this Enel. So no blocks. I will counter out of it. And if he tries to remove it some more. Okay, there we go. The Enel got to stick. That's really good. I'm gonna try and ignore the Zeph and maybe even play down a Katakuri and put this guy down, put him back to my life. Or I can use it to get rid of his Borsellino, which would be a decent play as well. Now I just have to weigh my options. So I'm gonna attack with Enel first. See what he does. He can block 2k counter, that's fine as well. Because Sakazuki is now a 6k power. Yep, that's what I was expecting. Alright, so now I have a couple of options that I can do. I'm saving this to rest this, so I'm not actively looking to get rid of Borsellino. But I think I'll just attack into the leader for 6k. Alright, he does drop a 2k counter in form of Bartolomeo. And now I'm just going to drop down Katakuri, put Pudding back into my life, and end the turn. So I could have used it to get rid of the Zeph, but as of now, I'm like, I want to drop down all my big stuff. I can, if this becomes a problem, I can I can Katakuri it away, either one of these two threats, but I want him to have Borsalino on the field so that he feels a sense of security, and then I can play down the 2 million votes. So he does play down the Mihawk, which is unfortunate, but now there's no way of getting rid of Enel. I will take this, no trigger, and he swings for 5k with the Sakazuki, and I might just, you know, counter out of this if... Yeah, I think we're gonna just counter out of it. Maybe I should use the Sanji, but right now I think I want to mitigate a little bit of the attacks coming my way. So I'm gonna put 1 on Enel and actually attack into... Okay, he does let it go. That's fine. So put 1 and attack into the leader here. The reason why I'm not playing out Yamato just so soon, because I want to save it when I have 1 life. And I can't pop the Borsalino anyway. Okay, so in this case, I think I will just deploy the Katakuri. And I don't want to put Enel in my life, so I might just, you know, get rid of this so he doesn't have another blocker. And now all I have to do is protect this Enel. I can trash 1 life to protect it, so he has less attackers on the field to push for game. Alright, do I want to protect this with a 3k counter? Thinking about it. I can also just let it go, but I'm afraid it's going to attack into this again and I can't counter out of it. So no blocks. I think I will just protect the Enel. And now if he tries to get rid of it, I'm just going to trash 1 life and then I'll play Yamato the next turn. So we're going to try and draw out the game a little bit so that he runs out of cards, but let's see what he does next. I think if he has another Mihawk, that's going to be a bit troublesome, but I think I can just take this. Alright, we do have a Shirahoshi. We're going to use it. See what we can draw. We get an Althor, which is really good. Got another Yamato. So we're going to pitch 1 of these. I'm thinking if I should keep the... Okay, we don't have any blockers, so we have to kind of overwhelm the board a little bit. Let me just drop the 2 million volts, because I feel like Yamato is my key to winning this game. Might be wrong. Oh, we got a big ass Kaido. Katakuri gets pushed back, so that's fine. You're gonna swing in for 5. Gonna swing in for 7. And he does take it. It was a trigger of draw 2. That's actually really good for him. And we're just gonna drop down the Yamato. Choose no targets, gain 1 life, and turn. So right now we have 2 big threats. Potentially we can save the Enel as well. We got an Eldor for protection, because he is down to 1 life after all. And yeah, let's just hope for the best. Alright, he does choose to attack. I can counter out of this. He might be trying to get me down to 0 life this turn. And if he does that, he may be in trouble. I can Yamato the next turn as well to get it back, but that's gonna be difficult. So I'd rather have some protection this turn. So no blocks. We're going to Elthor and 1k counter. So we're gonna protect 1 of our lives at least. We can even Katakuri the Shirahoshi back to our life. That's also another option that we can go for. I just want to protect my life this turn so that I don't get to 0 this turn. That's gonna be very difficult because he would still have some defenses up. He can even play out like a blocker. Alright, and I think I will just take this. Ooh, this is really good. So yeah, power yellow, right? Use trigger, make sure Kaido doesn't attack. So now my Enel is safe. This guy can't attack. And we're in a good spot. So that's the power of yellow right there. So now he has to reevaluate his game plan. He probably has blockers that he should play out. So Enel is down to 5. Oh, this is tricky. Do we want to save the Enel right here? Can we go for game next turn? That's the thing. Okay, wait. I haven't procced Enel yet, so I will use Enel trash the Perispero to get the life back. Yeah, that should be the way. Okay, yeah. See, he did have the Sabo. Now Sabo can be... Make sure everything else can be destroyed, which is fine. Okay, he has 1k counter here. Let's assume that it's like 2, 4, 6, and 7. So we gotta swing in for 9. This can be 9, this can be 9. So 2, that's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 9 as well. And then we can put like, so it's 10, 10, 10. 10, 10, 11. We could go for the longer game and survive. And so this is 9. This is 10. So we're going to swing for 10. So I think it's like 2, 4, 6k worth of counter, which means that he probably have to block. Ooh, he needs to block. He doesn't have enough. Oh, okay, there we go. He doesn't have enough counter. I thought he did. So the last few cards of his hand was 1k, 2k, so 3k, 5k worth of counter, which this is 10. So he had to, block first, and then the next will be 11. So, I mean, maybe safer to play Katakuri and put Shirahoshi back into my life, but given that he has such strong attacks and I can probably survive another turn, but with Sabo, if he goes all in, I may not have enough counters. I think that was the better choice to kind of go all in for game. Though I could have been punished easily if one of them was a 2k. Then I wouldn't have enough attackers. So in hindsight, maybe it would have been safer to play out Katakuri and put Shirahoshi back into my life and try to survive another turn while still applying pressure to his life. That way he would have to use the Sabo to block that final attack. Or I can, try and get rid of the Draco Mihawk that way. But still, he didn't have enough counter because he would have to have like a perfect hand of maybe like at least 2Ks. And then we know one of them is Borsalino after all. So that was a kind of risky but paid off. May have went the other way as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed that match. I think that was a good showing of what Enel can do against Sakazuki. I think the matchup MVP is definitely Enel because you need to provide that pressure. And Sakazuki has a harder time to get rid of Enel because it does have an innate ability to just stay on the field by just trashing the top card of your life. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.